Hi, I'm Caroline Mitchell, canine behaviourist at Good Doggy. So before you do any work on your dog's behaviour, there are a few things that I think you should be putting into your virtual toolkit. This is not a real tool bag. This is not your treats and your clickers that we're talking about here. We are talking about different strategies and different ideas that will help get you out of situations. So whenever you're out working with your dog, knowing all these things, having your virtual toolkit ready means that when stuff happens to you on the walk, you will be prepared for it and you will know how to deal with it and you'll be ready for it. So this is your virtual toolkit. So the first thing you need to know in your virtual tool bag is what your dog's favourite treat is. So often we think we're just going to get some treats and we'll do some training, but we don't really think about this any more than that. If you knew what your dog's favourite treat was and also their second favourite treat, then you would be able to intentionally keep the good ones for the really important training. So I always save the best treats for recall training and maybe something else that you're working on that's really important. Then your second favourite treats, you can use them for other things like your clicker introduction, general sort of training classes and all that kind of stuff. And you just know then that if you just want to give your dog some random treats, then something from the not first or second favourite list is the right thing for that. And if you're not sure what your dog's absolute favourite treat is, then I suggest getting a big selection of all the different kinds of foods that might be available to your dog. So it could be gravy bones, it could be cheesy bites, it could be pepperami, cheese, whatever it is that you want to use or you might use for training your dog, even little chopped up bits of carrot and pepper. Get a little selection of them all and offer your dog two at a time. So one different one and see which ones they decide to choose. Just keep repeating that over and over and over again until you get a clear winner and you get one that maybe is second favourite. So in your virtual toolkit, you are going to know what your dog's favourite treat is and what their second favourite treat is and how to use them when you are faced with a training situation, which one is going to be best for you at that time. The next thing you need to know for your training toolkit is a calming activity that your dog really likes to do. So this will be really important for you if your dog ever gets anxious or if they get triggered by something on the walk, if they're reactive and they struggle to calm down after experiencing something like that. So knowing the best way to calm your dog after those kinds of situations is perfect for when you're on your walk, because it means that as soon as they've had something that's triggered an anxiety attack or a panic attack or some reactivity, you can immediately throw out this game and you can play with them for a little while, knowing that that anxiety is now just disappearing and they are relaxing, ready for the next trigger. If your dog gets trigger stacked quite often, and by that I mean if they get triggered by something that frightens them on a walk, then they struggle to calm down after meeting that trigger, then you meet another one, and when you meet the next one, then you're already full of anxiety, so you're starting from a much more anxious place, so obviously the reaction gets worse, and then you don't recover properly from that one, and then you meet another one, and so on, and each experience just keeps stacking on top of the other until eventually almost anything then could trigger a reactive behaviour from your dog. So a calming activity that you know that they love is really useful to know about before you go out. And if you don't have one that's like that, then you can teach them a game. I like to teach them the 3 treat game. I will link to my blog about that in the description here, but essentially you just need a couple of treats, and what you're going to do is encourage your dog to sniff around and search for the treats. It's a little bit more complicated than that, so check the blog out for the exact information about how to do that. But a game like that can be useful. Any kind of sniffing game is usually quite calming for dogs. Licking games can be too. So figuring out what your dog's most favourite calming activity is will be really useful to know as a part of your toolkit, and you can make sure that whatever it is that you need for that, you can always take with you when you go out for walks. So as soon as you need it, it will be absolutely ready for you. In your toolkit as well, you will also want to know what your dog's favorite high energy game. So you're going to need a game like this whenever tension builds up and you need a really fast way to release it. So this is really good for dogs that have problems with frustration and dogs that also are reactive, but not because they're afraid. So sometimes dogs can become reactive because frustration can build up, but also because the overexcitement can build up and other things like that. So when that happens, we need a really fast way to release that energy and release that tension so that they can relax again. So again, we're trying to prevent that emotion from stacking one on top of the next. So this could be for your dog anything they might like to tug or shake, if they like to chase a ball, anything that's a bit like that they maybe want to perhaps they like to tear up paper or something like that. So you're figuring out what your dog's favorite way of releasing tension is, and also make sure that you have whatever you need to play that game also in your bag when you go out for your walks, in your real bag. As part of your toolkit, you'll want to know what your dog's favorite walk is. When your dog is on their absolute favorite kind of walk, they will be their absolute most peaceful there. They're going to be happiest there. And this then makes that a very restorative type of walk. So dogs that especially have problems with anxiety, this can take its toll over time. So a restorative walk is really nice. It's just a nice way of letting the brain take a day off and allowing it time to kind of restore itself, heal itself from things that make your dog anxious. So for your dog, maybe they like to go on a nice, slow, sniffy walk. Perhaps they like to just get lost in the big, long grass. Or maybe they like a walk where nobody else will be there. Or maybe they like to be around loads of people. So a trip to the dog park where they have social sessions built in would be ideal for them. But you know your dog best. You know what kind of activities they love to do the most when they're on their walks. So in your virtual toolkit, you need to make a note of where their favorite walk is, because you know that after they've had a busy couple of days or hard work days, this is going to be the walk that's going to help them restore themselves and be at their absolute best for your next walk. A bit like your dog's favorite walk, also know what your dog considers to be a safe place. When you work with anxious dogs, you're going to need to know what their safe place looks like. And in particular, if you're working with anxious dogs out on a walk, you're going to need to be able to sometimes find a space like that so that they can get a rest. So if your dog is anxious at home, a safe space might to them look like a little space underneath a coffee table for hiding. Maybe they like to hide under their bed. Maybe they like to go into their crate. So you know your dog best, what feels like a safe space to them. And if it's not at home and you're on your walk, maybe it's really long grass or in amongst, some kind of overgrown woodland, or perhaps they like to be in the water or something like that. So every dog is so different, and you know your dog better than anybody. So think about where they feel absolutely the most safest from anything that's causing them anxiety or reactive behavior or anything like that, or overexcitement. And make sure that you know a place like that when you next go out for your training, because you'll want to perhaps find that space if your dog gets a bit overstimulated or over anxious. You'll need to find that safe space so they can get a break from it during your training walk or whatever it is that you're doing. We also need a de-escalation cue. So what kind of things does your dog naturally do that calms them? A lot of dogs naturally sniff, some lick, some shake, some yawn. These are the kinds of things that your dog will probably do either just before they get over threshold or after they've come back down from being over threshold. So if your dog is reactive to other dogs, then when they see the other dog in the distance, there's a good chance that at that awareness stage, they might do their de-escalation activity, their calming activity, and also after they've been through that experience and they've started to calm down on the other side, if they have been triggered by this other dog, then you might see it happening then as well. But you'll probably find clues about this throughout the day. Any time that you think your dog's tension might be rising, that's the time that they'll probably try and do this cue. So this is really about watching them and learning and seeing how they try to manage their own emotion when they're in their situations that make them anxious or whatever. So once you've decided what that is, it could be lip licking, it could be chewing, it could be yawning, it could be sniffing, then whenever you see them doing it, you're just going to add a word to that. So if it's sniffing, then as soon as you see them sniff, you might say go sniff. If it's yawning, you might say go yawn. If it's shaking, then you might say shake, shake, something like that. You pick something that you think you're going to be comfortable saying, but do it every single time. So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to label that action. So every time they do the action, you're adding a label to it. And what will happen over time is that those two things will become connected for your dog. So you'll be able to use that word then to get them to do it. And this is going to be really useful for you if you are working with triggers, with anxiety. Then as soon as you see that trigger in the distance, then you can just tell them your cue and you can get them to do their calming activity, their calming behavior. And if you need to do it again, then you can keep on trying to get them to do it to help them kind of get that out of their system and help perhaps stop them from going over that threshold line, which once they've gone over that, as we know, it's really, really hard to get them to come back down again. So everything we can do to try and help them from going over it is a bonus. So knowing their de-escalation or calming activity and labeling that. Not so much for your dog, this one. This one's really more for you. And it's a way of saying no. So whenever you're out doing stuff with your dog, if you're working with them in the park, you're trying to avoid other dogs, you're trying to avoid people on bikes, you're trying to avoid other people, anything like that, whatever it is that you're trying to work on, you will always get people that will want to come over to you and they will want to help you and they want to tell you how to do whatever it is you're doing. They know a better way, they know a faster way, they've done this before, you're doing it wrong, you're using your clicker wrong, whatever it is. But for whatever reason, you will want them to go away. You want them just to leave you on your own. You know what you're doing, you've got a plan and you're just working on it. I always think of the guy that approaches the dogs in the park. He's got his bag full of treats. He probably doesn't have a dog of his own, and he's coming over to see your dog because he just loves dogs. And you'll know this guy because he'll say, it's okay, dogs love me. Even though you're trying to say to him, my dog really doesn't like other people. She's really very anxious. She doesn't want to be petted. She doesn't want to be approached. But it's okay because dogs love him, and he will get his treat out and he will pursue your dog as much as he can to get some love from your dog. And it's lovely, and he's trying to help you, and he is trying to help himself and everything, you know, but you don't want that. You want your dog to go at their own pace. You know that they're afraid. So in your toolkit, you're going to think about a way that you might say no to that person, and you're going to practice it over and over and over in your head. Have all these different conversations going on in your head so that when a situation actually does come up, you feel like you've rehearsed it a bit and you're a bit more comfortable with the words. You're happy with the way that it goes together. And you can just fire it straight out and say, no, thank you, I'm working with my dog, or no, please leave her alone, she's afraid, or something like that. So you're just going to practice and practice and practice this in your head so that it's ready and you feel a bit more comfortable saying it in real life. Also in your toolkit, I want you to know what your dog looks like when they are uncomfortable. Knowing what our dogs look like when they are just coming out of their comfort zone is so important. And this is a really, really important thing to know. And you should always know this, have it in your toolkit ready, because as soon as you see your dog looking even a little bit uncomfortable, that is the time to take action. So often we wait for really big behaviors. We look for barking and lunging and growling and snapping as signs that things are going wrong. But actually, things are starting to go wrong long before that. So what we're now looking for is maybe some stiffness, some staring, stiff ears, twitchy tail, things like that. So you know your dog best. Get used to watching them and make a note of what they look like when they are just coming out of their comfort zone, when they're just a bit too alert, when they're just starting to take notice of something that maybe a bit more interest than normal. That's the point in which then you can start to take action. And at this point, when they've started to come out of their comfort zone, you will have so much more information about what they want to do. Sometimes dogs like to reverse back a little bit. Some will look at you. Some will do all different things. So maybe they stare at the other dog. And at that point, you'll be able to see whether their intentions are to escape or to freeze or to fight or whatever. And you'll be able to respond much better to that early cue. So knowing what your dog looks like when they are only just coming out of their comfort zone is really, really important. I really hope you're getting lots of useful hints and tips and ideas from watching the videos here on my YouTube channel. Behavior training, though, is a complex thing, and there are so many variables and options and different ways to approach things. And sometimes working on it alone can feel quite lonely and frustrating at times. Sometimes you'll question whether you're doing the right thing or whether you might even be making things worse. If this is you, don't worry, I'm here for you. Privately, I can guide you through and support you through the process wherever you are. We'll start with an assessment session where I'll get to know your dog. I'll get to learn what makes him tick, any history. We'll learn about the behaviours you need help with. And then once we've figured out what's gone wrong and what techniques will suit him best, we'll make a plan just for him. Then we'll follow up with a series of private sessions where we'll address the root cause, work on related behaviours, boost resilience, and build on the behaviour training plan together until you have something that is working for you both. If that's something that's of interest to you, please check out the information on this video for details about how to get in touch and how to find out more about how I can navigate you through this process. You'll need to know your dog's favourite escape activity. So running away, chasing a ball, things like that, anything that gets them to move really fast. If they don't have one already, we can teach them the chase me game, which is basically you standing in front of them with a treat, and you're going to encourage them to chase you while you run backwards, and they're going to just keep following you. So it's going to redirect them away from the thing that they're focusing on. They're back focused on you, and now they're chasing you, and it's really fun, but it is getting them to disengage and escape. So often our dogs get trapped on their leads, so when they're in a situation which makes them anxious or reactive, their only option is to fight. We want to give them back the flight option. So a chase me game is a really good way of doing that, and it just can quickly get them to disengage. If we can catch them before they go into threshold, this will be really effective for you. Just be very, very careful. Whenever you're teaching them the chase me game, be very aware of your surroundings and everything that's all obstacles that might be there. Don't be falling into rivers or going in front of traffic while you're trying to play this game. So super aware of your environment anytime you use this game, and keep yourself and your dog absolutely safe. That's way more important. And finally, the last thing I want you to have in your virtual toolkit, I want you to know what your dog's easiest and favorite trick is. Most dogs, we teach them a sit as the very first trick, and we practice the death out of that. So for most dogs, a sit will be it, but that might not be the case for you. Your dog might find it much easier to make eye contact with you. They might actually prefer to lie down. They might prefer to run in a suckle. So whatever it is that your dog really loves to do and finds really, really easy, that is going to be your test cue. So basically what that means is that when your dog is encountering something that they are afraid of or anxious about, reactive to, overexcited by, whatever it is, then your test cue, that's the thing that you're going to ask them to do. And if they can do it and they can do it well, then you know basically where they are on the whole scale of reactivity. So a dog that is very much in their comfort zone will be able to do anything you ask them to do really, really easily. They'll do it convincingly. They'll be able to do it for a much longer period. When they start to sort of escalate that, so if they are anxious, the anxiety will start to build up. There will come a tipping point where they will not be able to do it very well. They'll try, but maybe they'll only be able to do it for a split second, or maybe they'll not even succeed at it, but you can see that they're trying. Once they've gone over threshold, they won't be able to do it at all. They won't be listening to you. They won't be focused on anything that you want. They won't be able to respond to any cues at all. So your test cue, which is the easiest trick that they know, is a really good way of testing just where they are in terms of that scale. So if they're doing it very easily, then you know that they're not over anxious. They're not too worried about what's going on. They are still listening to you. And this is the training zone. So when they can do something that you've asked them to do and they can do it reasonably well, then you know that you're in the right zone to be starting to teach them other things. You can't get it wrong if you're rewarding them behaviour, because their brain is still very much directed towards you and not being completely overwhelmed by everything else that's going on in your environment. So that is your virtual toolkit. Everybody that has a dog should have one of these. You should either have an actual piece of paper with all this stuff written down, a wee assessment sheet, or at least just make sure you know it and you've thought about it, so that whenever you're in a situation, if you're out with your dog and you see something that triggers them, the first thing you can do, can I get them to do their trick? Yes, I can. Great. They are still thinking, they're still remembering, still learning, so I can do some training with them here and it will be beneficial. Or if I've asked them to do their trick and they're not doing it, not doing it very well, then maybe I need to use my escape cue. So let's play chase me game and see if I can break that tension and get them away. Or maybe they've already been through their trigger and now they're starting to calm down the other side. When do I know it's safe to leave and move on to something else? So your test cue will help you with that. Having your best treat on hand to reward the most challenging behaviours is always going to be useful. And if everything does go wrong, you've got some calming cues and you've got your calming games, and you'll know about this stuff. You'll be able to plan all this stuff. So whenever you go out for that training walk or to do whatever it is that you're going to be doing with your dog, that bit of work, then you will be well prepared. You'll have everything you need no matter what's going to happen, and you will get absolutely the most out of each training session. So hopefully that has helped. Let me know what you put into your toolkit, and I will see you on the next video. Take care for now. Bye-bye.